Welcome to the Abundance Journey, the show that helps spiritual entrepreneurs create an abundance mindset that accelerates revenue. Secretly, everything you experience in your life is actually abundance. Once you understand how to activate abundance, you find yourself in flow with your business and clients, so it's easy to create the revenue you want. The Abundance Journey is the only show that activates abundance for you, so you enjoy rapid results in your business. Here's your host, the Abundance Ambassador, Elaine Starling.
All right, I got a question I have to ask you. Have you ever wanted a secret formula that would help you just get into flow with life so you easily, effortlessly respond to whatever happens, always getting the most out of every single situation? Well, I sure do. Sign me up. I'm looking for that. Well, I got to tell you, I was incredibly blessed. I got to read this amazing book called Spontaneous Brilliance. It's written by Sandra Cavanaugh. And I knew this was somebody I absolutely had to get on this show. And guess what? She's here. Oh my God, Sandra's in the house. Sandra Cavanaugh, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I was so excited the day you asked me to come on your show. It was just like dream come true.
Well, I mean, there's a lot about us that is so similar in our thinking and kind of how we talk about things, but I want people to understand just how amazing you truly are. I mean, they'll get to know you through this conversation, but I want to introduce you just a little bit because, I mean, your background blew me away. You're an expert in the field of creativity, imagination, and innovation. You've coached and taught thousands of successful entrepreneurs, business leaders, their teams, actors, writers, directors, artists, parents, students, educators, you name it. I mean, you're in touch with government officials and helping them really understand how this whole thing works. And what I love about your book and what I love about what you're doing, you've created techniques that you've developed for over 35 years as an award-winning professional director, actor, writer, entrepreneur, and master acting and improvisational teacher. And that kind of profound wisdom with these deceptively simple strategies. I mean, you make it look so easy and it takes a bit of practice, right? But this stuff really works. It's really profound. It really helps us understand to expect, respect, and maximize the unique creative genius that every single one of us has. And that makes all the difference in the world when you recognize that every single person you're talking to is a genius. You treat them a little differently, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And, you know, Sandra, I heard about your mission to create a world where everyone's unique creative genius is shared and respected, regardless of their age, their education, their perceived abilities. That is so important. I think there's such a huge lack of respect in today's world that if we could just master that, would the world be a massively different and significantly improved place?
Absolutely. We don't think of ourselves as unique creative geniuses, let alone everybody we're looking at when we walk into any room. Absolutely.
I know. And I absolutely adore your book, Spontaneous Brilliance. It is a must read as far as I'm concerned. People can get so much out of it. And I love the analogies and the examples that you use and the way you carry it all the way through the book. It's very conversational. It's very fun. It's very uplifting and very practical. There's a lot of really simple, here's what you can do to experience this spontaneous brilliance. And I want to commend you for that because it's so powerful and so urgently needed.
Thank you. I was so blessed to work with editors that just were right there going, making sure, because I really wanted it to just sound like I talk, and then when I had to read it for the audiobook, I really found out, who wrote this? Sounds just like me. But it is very much what I set out to write. It's very conversational. And I just really want everyone on the planet. I mean, the mission sounds a little huge, to create a world where everyone's unique creative genius is respected. But But I truly believe that. I believe that every single human being is a unique creative genius with a passion and a purpose that they came here to share. And the problem is not that we have a shortage of brilliance on this planet. The problem is that we have a reluctance to offer it and a resistance to accepting it. And so we just don't listen to each other.
Yeah.
We have the answers to all the problems on the planet. We just aren't noticing where they might be.
Oh, this is so why I wanted to interview you. Oh my God, this is brilliant. This is so awesome. But I always start every single episode with an intention. An intention is how we want to feel and what we want to create together. And you're so masterful at this. It was important to me to come up with a really strong intention, because then we focus our attention on everything that lines up with our intention. And as our conversation continues, we're just going to build this entire intention and make it real for everyone. So it's really important to me that we come up with a strong intention that illustrates what we want to create together. And I'm going to read the intention, and then we're going to hold it for 78 seconds, which will feel like an eternity. I know, because it always does. But the ironic thing is, we have so much going on upstairs. We have a shorter attention span than a goldfish, according to the latest research. And in order to really create what we want, we have to hold the energy for 78 seconds. This is a number I got from Abraham Hicks. In order to really establish a new vibrational level where we're in partnership with the divine on all of this. As you know, we're interacting with the universe. We're getting information all the time back and forth. And in order for the universe to serve us, we really need to hold that vibration for 78 seconds and lock in on what we want to create. So I'm not going to belabor it, because I've been explaining this for a few episodes. So hopefully everybody gets the concept. So here's our intention. In love and light, we hold the intention that we welcome, appreciate, and engage with life in every moment, so we automatically create a life we love. Thank you, divine. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is done. We give thanks, and so it is. Wow, that was impressive. I haven't felt that kind of vibration in a while. And all the way around my body, off my body, I felt this tingling. That was wild. How was that for you, Sandra?
That was very powerful. My hands get very hot, nice and warm when we're doing that. So yeah, it was incredibly powerful. You've got quite a bit of power going on, young lady.
And all of the people who are watching and listening to this episode, they're actually contributing energy at the same time, because from the divine perspective, there is no separate time or place. It's all happening simultaneously right now. And so I think we were also picking up on the energy of the audience. How beautiful is that?
I agree.
Sandra, you have such an incredible background, and you're so passionate about the work that you're doing. What got you here? Why are you so dedicated to this?
Well, it was a long and varied journey, but you covered some of it in the bio. I started out in the 80s as an actor, and when I started teaching acting, I discovered a lot about one, that teaching was a definite love of mine, but also that I was finding that was really a creative expression for me, that teaching was a deep connection for me. I love teaching. I love directing theater. And I spent, 30, almost 40 years now in professional theater and teaching acting and teaching improvisation. And when I was, it's been about 20 years ago now, I adopted two daughters from foster care that had some pretty extreme special needs. Already had a daughter that I'd given birth to, and I now have five daughters altogether. So I collect them, I adopt. But my daughters that I adopted about 20 years ago, they introduced me to a lot of special needs and cognitive challenges and emotional disturbances. And I started doing a lot of work with kids with special needs and with their parents, coaching parents to maintain their status, when they were going into IEP meetings and things. And as I was working with these kids, I started to realize that every one of them was brilliant beyond what anyone that was teaching them or working with them or living with them was really realizing, because they just weren't listening. They weren't giving them the time and the tools to share. And that really became the impetus for my recognition that everyone truly is a genius. I don't just mean that like as hyperbole, but I truly mean it. And then I also combined that with the fact that as I was teaching acting for decades, I was always saying, in acting as in life, this is true. When I'd be, working with somebody in front of a class, in improv as in life, this is true. And then one day I heard myself and went, maybe that's not just a pretty piece of poetry, what Shakespeare wrote, that all the world's a stage. And so I started to think about that, and I realized that everything, literally everything that makes for a successful performance on the stage makes for a successful performance on the great stage of life, what I call the great stage of life. And so that is what my then coaching and consulting and writing became, me sort of striking out away from the university systems and running theater companies into being this coach and consultant is really about unifying those two things. And as you know, I say in Spontaneous Brilliance that it's a metaphorical, metaphysical guide to life based on my two favorite metaphors. And my second favorite metaphor is Einstein's quote that everyone's a genius, but if you ask a fish to climb a tree, it'll spend its entire life thinking it's stupid. And Shakespeare's line in As You Like It, that all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. So
yeah,
does that answer your question?
It does. It does, because it's wonderful that you saw your love of theater and you saw how to really make dialogue come alive and engage with an audience so that they have this transformational experience. And you saw that actually life is like that. And when you show up in your life the same way an actor does on stage, but it's not fake, it's not pretension. It's actually one of the things that you said before we got started. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is why I really want to talk to you. One of the things I've committed to this year is being much more present in the present moment. And you were talking about how these improv techniques that you teach and you talk about in your book are really only possible when you are present.
Yeah, I call it learned present moment thinking. It's a way to learn present moment thinking so that you are living in the present moment. If you are, in improv, there are only three things you're ever doing. You are either making an offer, You're accepting an offer or you're blocking an offer. That's it. That's all you can ever do. And life is a 24/7 improvisation. That's all it is. By definition, life is literally improv. And so in life, there are only three things you can ever be doing. You are either making an offer of a thought, word, or deed into your life, or you are accepting an offer that comes to you, or you are blocking an offer. And our goal is to offer, accept, and not to block. Because when we're blocking, we're in fear. We're responding in fear.
Yeah, always. And I loved one of the areas where you were saying it's yes to welcome the offer in, because this is just the situation. This is just what's happening. Welcome it in, and then think, thank you. Be in appreciation for whatever is showing up in your life, because it truly is designed to be a blessing for you. And then you respond. And I've got a story that I wanted to share with you because it really kind of brings home the importance of this. I was driving my husband's truck and trying to back it out of a parking space. And it's a fairly large vehicle, and it always makes me uncomfortable. Spatial awareness is just not my greatest strong suit. And so I'm being really careful and slowly backing up. And I see somebody in the parking lot driving really fast. And I thought, boy, that is dangerous. You know, there's going to be an accident. And all of a sudden, somebody honked. And I don't even know if they were behind me, but it triggered me so badly. I was so chapped, like instantly. And I started making up all these stories about this person's ancestry, questionable, and intelligence, completely not. And I mean, I was going off in my head, and I hadn't even looked to see if it was for me or who it was. But I cranked on the wheel really hard. I was finally able to get out of that space. And I got this message from the divine. It's like, wait a minute, everything is designed to be a blessing for you. You're the one making up the story that it's somebody's fault. What would it look like if this was a blessing for you? And I really had to think about it. But I was like, well, maybe I almost hit something. And so they didn't have time to put their car in park and jump out and run around, knock on my window and say, hey, lady, you're going to hit something. Maybe it was just a quick, and it saved me money and time and frustration, and that would be great. Or maybe it was just you got this, you're far enough out. And sure enough, I cranked on the wheel and I was able to get out. And suddenly I had this massive epiphany. I'm the only one who can let the blessings in. I'm the only one. You can be loving to me. You can rave about me. You can say all kinds of great things. If I don't let it in, I never experience it. It's up to me to let the blessing in. And that's what I love about your entire book. You're telling us, look, here's this opportunity coming your way. Welcome it in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, one of the things that I firmly believe is that we all have 100% responsibility for our own life. And when I say that to someone who hasn't heard that phrase before, they immediately go, wait a minute, I'm not to blame for this in my life. That's not my fault. And it has nothing to do with fault or blame. I always put a hyphen in the middle of the word. We have 100% responsibility. We have the ability to respond to whatever we are experiencing in our life. And when we accept it, you alluded to the sort of yes and aspect and putting the thank you in the middle of that. Yes and is a game that Viola Spolin created many years ago to teach people to accept and then offer. And so that was put into place, and literally in a theater game or even in corporate America now, they use yes and a lot to train people. And it requires you in the game to actually say yes and literally say those words. But in life, you're not necessarily doing that. You're accepting, if you can put that into your head, to yes and. I have a corporate client who supervises a lot of people, and she will call me in the middle of the day and she'll go, do you have a minute? I have no idea how to yes and this situation. And so I always remind her, it's okay, let's break it down into 3 parts. Let's go, yes, okay, I hear what you're saying. Thank you. universe, thank you myself for bringing this into my life. Because that's the thing, is we are conscious creators. That's what we're striving to be. We are creating this life. We're writing this story. You know, I take this, you know, you've read the book, but I take the metaphor of theater really long and broad. And so we're not only the character in this personality here, but we are the player. Our soul is the player that's playing this character, but we're also the playwright. We are writing the story. So as we write that story, we can see each piece of it as happening by us, for us, but never to us. Yeah. Nobody's doing anything to us. Everything is happening for us of our own design, whether we're conscious of the design or not.
That is so true. And I really loved what you were talking about in your book, where you were saying, you know, yes, stuff is happening, right? The quality of your life is based on how you respond to what is happening. And that's why you don't really want to block it. You never want to shut it down, because life is lifing. You know, I don't know about you. I've had those days when it's like, okay, stop the plane. I'm getting off, you know, just give me a minute here. And sadly, that hasn't worked for me yet. For you, but no, it doesn't work. So you have to be prepared to handle and respond to whatever is showing up for you. And I heard this distinction recently that I thought was really powerful. The difference between my human self and my higher self. My human self immediately feels an emotional reaction to what happened, makes it good, bad, right, wrong, and usually I'm right and the other person is wrong. Funny how that works. But then if only I tell them why they're wrong, then they'll agree with me and everything will be right. And that's my human self wanting to react and fix them, because clearly they're broken because they don't agree with me. Okay, so that's my human self. My higher self can step back and just say, hey, this is just a situation. It's not right, wrong, good, bad. There's no emotion involved. This is just what happened. Somebody honked at you. Big deal. They honked. Get over it, honey. And then I can respond with supportive love and grateful compassion, knowing that every single moment is designed to be a blessing for me. And I still have a little bit of a lag time between the human and the, oh yeah, I'm working on that.
Don't we all? Don't we all? I you know, you said you want them to know why, you know, why you're right. And in the book, I go into great lengths about the fact that there is no why. You know? And my beloved used to just tick me off in conversations, because Rex, who is my partner, he loves to debate things, and he and I often will be in conflict in our points of view. And for years, we would get into these long conversations about stuff. And inevitably, at some point, I would say, well, why, blah, blah, blah. And he would say, you can't say that. Say that another way. Why is a non-question? Ask it another way. And I would just want to come across the table and wring his little neck and think, you know, why are you shutting me down? Because you're losing this argument here. And it took me years of thinking that he was just trying to win the debate that way, when I actually was teaching an acting class and some students were saying, I don't understand why I'm doing this. What I, as the character, why am I doing this? I don't understand why I'm doing this. And I said, why isn't going to help you? It doesn't give you anything to play. Ask what. Find out what you need. Find out what is important. Find out what they love. Find out what is going on here and how you can do something about it. I was like, but why is never going to help you? Why is just looking for justification? And I went, oh, wait a minute. That's what Rex has been talking about all this time. Why doesn't help you? Because why is always an ego-based question. Why is always looking for justification, explanation, and those ego-based questions. There's nothing wrong with our ego. God love our ego, because it's what Dr. Sue Morter calls a protective personality. You know, it's our protective personality. It is always protecting us. It is always doing what it thinks it needs to do to protect us. But a lot of times that is looking for justification. And so that makes us right, right?
Yeah,
But right,
absolutely.
be
Yeah.
being, being in alignment with what's going on and finding out what we truly need, what we truly love, and what this moment is truly about. You said, you ask, what's the gift in this moment? That's about embracing the obstacle, which is an acting technique that I'm very passionate about having everybody do, is recognize that there's no such thing as a problem happening to you.
Yeah.
And there's no actor on the planet that wants to play a role that has no obstacles.
Right.
That's why we choose the role. That's
right.
what we like to do. We like the meaty role to play, right? And we love to watch those things in movies and in plays. That's what we want to see. And we experience, vicariously through that. So in our life, the same thing is happening. Those obstacles are how we grow. Those are the gifts. And when we look at the obstacles as offers, then we know we got to accept them and offer back to build on that.
That's wonderful. I love that. Well, it's kind of funny because this is the abundance journey. So we're talking about abundance, and no two people have ever defined abundance the same way. Given the kind of work that you're doing, Sandra, and the transformation that people experience when they work with you, how would you define abundance?
I was trying to think about that earlier. I knew you were going to ask me.
It's a tough question.
I think that it's about tapping into the awareness that we are consciously creating this life. And when we find our bliss, when we recognize what our bliss, what our purpose is, and we go about consciously creating a life to live that, that's that 100% abundant bliss place. That is abundance to me, is living your bliss. We're here on purpose, in a field of infinite possibilities. And when we can recognize that we came here on purpose, and so there is a purpose, there is a passion that we have, and we connect to that, what Joseph Campbell called your bliss, when we connect to that and we're really living that, I think that's abundance.
Absolutely. And I like how it kind of ties back to our intention, where we said we welcome, appreciate, and engage with life in every moment.
Yes.
So we automatically create a life we love.
Yes.
That's really that flow, that effortless, joyous, playful, loving flow. And to be able to respond to the obstacles, as you say, with this level of grace and calm and tranquility, just this centered, grounding space of, hey, no biggie, I can handle it. This is a blessing. Let's roll with this. Let's play with this.
It's for you. Just know I'm here for you. Now what?
Yeah, now what? That's a great follow-on, right? This is what I'm looking for. Now what? How do we make these things happen? Well, obviously people start working with you because they've got certain challenges. They've got certain issues that they keep bumping up against. What would you say are kind of common symptoms or common situations that people are in before they pick up the phone and give you a call and start working with you?
Well, I think the individuals that come to me, as opposed to like an education system or a corporate environment, the individuals that come to me, they really come to me because they aren't quite sure either what they want to be when they grow up, even if they're 70 or 80 years old, or they aren't sure, they know what they want, they just have no idea how to commit to it and carry through with it. So they're struggling showing up authentically in their life and following through with their passion, that pull that they can feel to do something. They know they want to do it. And so I would say that's true of the entrepreneurs that I work with, the creative artists that I work with. And it's really deeply true of the folks that I work with special needs and their parents or caregivers as well, because there are these beautiful gifts there that nobody's paying any attention to, and then when I work with educators, I work with them to really recognize the unique creative genius in themselves and notice that their job as an educator is to provide all their students that they now see as unique creative geniuses with the tools they need to share their unique creative genius, rather than their job being to test and see if they have any genius.
Right.
Kind of
Right.
the system that we're stuck in.
Yeah, but if the default is, of course you're a genius, then it's a totally different world than prove it to me, right? It's completely different when the assumption is, well, of course, everybody's a genius. And how do we leverage and get the most genius out of every single person and get them to participate, right? Because often people are reluctant to participate because they're not sure how to communicate their thoughts and their ideas and their inspiration.
And we have such a competitive environment that people are afraid to fail,
Yeah.
I use that metaphor of Einstein's, with the monkey and the fish. I call them well-meaning monkeys, these people who have bought into the system and they are running the system and they're creating new tests in the system. And the well-meaning monkeys freak out all the lions and giraffes and fish and stuff because we can't be that. And we're always going to fail within that model, And I think one of the most interesting experiences that I have is when there's two, but one is when I walk into a corporate environment and I will be talking to a manager and saying, well, who all have you brought in to work on this issue? And, it's this team of leaders. And I'll say, well, what about the people that only work part-time? Or what about the janitors? Have you asked anybody, and it never, not never, but rarely to them that, if I'm saying, okay, the answers are here somewhere. You've got all these resources and you're saying this resource I'm comfortable with, this resource I'm not, for whatever reason. And it's the same thing with teachers that watch me walk into their classroom and go, I'm just going to get all these kids to improvise. And they're like, okay, wait, hang on. These kids don't talk to each other. If it's a room full of high school kids with extreme special needs, they're like, they don't talk to each other. They're not going to talk to you, let alone improvise with you. They've never written 2 paragraphs in their life. They're not going to write a play and enter a contest for you. They're not going to do that. I'm like, okay, but can I try? And then I had an experience with a high school class that I literally walked in. I had a grant, so I was paid for. The teacher just had to let me have her classroom. And I was like, huh? And she's like, yeah, this isn't going to work. And I'm like, can I try? And she goes, well, I could use a vacation every morning. So sure, you can have them for a month. And I wound up working with that same class. It wasn't all the same kids. Some rotated through, but I wound up working with that class for 3 years. And in 3 years, 2 kids won the national competition at the Kennedy Center, the Discovery Playwriting Competition. And they weren't supposed to be able to do anything remotely like that.
Amazing.
And I mentioned in the book that I was working with a classroom full of kids with extreme cognitive challenges, and they were in the middle of a project, and I was standing at some table, and all of a sudden the teacher yells, "You know what I love about Ms. Cavanaugh?" And everybody just kind of turned and looked at her for a second, and she goes, "She teaches like she doesn't know there's anything you can't do. And so there isn't." And the kids all went, okay, and went back to what they were doing. They could have cared less. But that was that same teacher that had said to me a year before, they're not ever going to do this. Good luck. You have fun.
Yeah, because people put these roadblocks up. They just make these assumptions that, and often we make assumptions about ourselves. Well, I could never do that. I couldn't possibly. Who am I to think I would ever? And one of the biggest challenges I think we all have to learn how to move through is if we want something in our physical world to change, if we want our life to change for the better, something has to shift internally first. What have you noticed has to shift inside so that we can welcome life exactly as it is, find that blessing, and engage with life?
I think that we have to be willing to accept that responsibility. We have to first be open to the fact that we have presets, that the judgments, the preconceived notions, that the expectations that cause us to block unconsciously. And so if we can be open to the notion that everything truly that is in our lives, that we invited it here, that we brought it into the story. We may not know why, but we don't need to know why. We just need to know that it is ours to respond to, and that our response makes all the difference. So I really think it's an openness to treat everything in your life as an offer.
Yes. Yeah, that is so important. And I've noticed, especially like in the book, Power versus Force, the author was talking about how when you commit to love, the opposite shows up because we live in a world of duality. So it's not like you can just say, well, I'm going to welcome everything and hey, presto, I automatically will. No, because you're a human being. And so somebody's going to honk the horn at you and you're going to feel a lot of resistance to that. Just automatically, you're going to jump into that human perspective. And there's this opportunity for you to step out of that perspective for just a moment and see things as an opportunity for you instead of resisting. That anytime you feel resistance, that is a sign that this is an opportunity for growth. And I find that often when I make a commitment, like I want to be much more present, then there will be lots of situations where I all of a sudden realize, oh, I'm not really being present. And the divine is asking me to recommit. Do you really want to be more present? Because you're having a lot of fun daydreaming. Are you sure? Are you sure you want to be more present? Is that really important to you? It's that, what are you committed to? You were talking about, it's not why, it's what.
What?
And I think the universe, the divine, is constantly demanding that we recommit to the what is most important to us.
And yes, and that we do something. Acting is active, and again, going back to that theater metaphor, acting is active. You are an actor on the great stage of life. That means you have to be taking action. I always say that my work brings people to the intersection of creative imagination, personal responsibility, and inspired action. If we don't take that inspired action step, then, we just end up spending our lives on the couch eating Cheetos, watching somebody else do something,
Yeah.
And we're all really good at complaining about what other people are doing, about X or Y situation. But if it's ours to have something to do with, then we have to do it. And people keep waiting to feel right or find the magic confidence or take the right course or do the right thing, get it all lined up in a pretty little box before they take the action and step in that direction. But they're not making offers into their own life.
Right.
And then they're frustrated. If you are frustrated, it's you not making an offer. It's you blocking. There's just no other answer to that. If you're frustrated, if you're in fear, you're blocking.
I love that. I love that. It's so profound and it's so obvious, right? If you feel that, it's a, hey, wait a minute, I'm blocking. I'm refusing to accept the blessing. And I'm not stepping into the moment and responding to the moment. So those are the two ways you can block. You can either, I'm going to take my ball and go home because I'm not going to play with this anymore. Or you just refuse to recognize the blessing.
Well, it's like the story that I tell in Spontaneous Brilliance of the little boy in my middle school class, that there was this charter school that said, could you teach a class in creativity? And these kids didn't know that what they'd gotten, they had no idea that I was coming in and that I was going to do this. And they got stuck with me for like 2 months and they didn't know what was happening. And the principal was very progressive. And, so I had them all on the floor doing some wild and crazy thing. And then I ended that exercise and I had everybody talking about it. And this little guy is sitting there on the floor and he looked like James Dean in 8th grade. I mean, this kid was the coolest thing you've ever seen. And, you know, there was just a moment where I'm sure he felt that sooner or later I was going to ask him what he thought of the exercise. And he had kind of skated through the exercise. I knew it wasn't cool. And so he just all of a sudden, he leans back on his hands, he throws his head back and he goes, oh, I'm so bored. And, some teachers would be thwarted by that, but, he didn't realize who he was dealing with. And I just turned around and I said, honey, if you are bored, that is your soul calling you out. Now I'm in a group of 7th and 8th graders, and this is the way their teacher is talking to them. Like, that is your soul calling you out. You have no reason to be bored in your own life unless you're not making offers into your life. That's on you. Like, so what offer are you going to make into your life right now? And then I turned it into a class discussion. I'm like, what is that? When he says that, what is that? And they're all going, blocking. And I'm like, okay,
yeah.
So how can we offer around that? And it becomes, it's a game you can play with yourself.
Yeah. This isn't something that many people feel automatic. It takes some practice. It takes a little bit of repetition, and there are baby steps involved in the process. So what's a baby step that we could look at that goes, okay, well, maybe I don't have it perfect yet, but I'm on the right path?
Baby step. I would say practice yes, thank you, and in your life. That would be the base place that I would start. And the other thing that we kind of haven't talked about is another acting technique, that find the love. Find what your character loves. So any actor, when they're playing a character, particularly a character that's difficult or in a difficult situation, you go digging for what that character loves. Where is their, quote, motivation coming from? What do they love? What gets them up in the morning? And so look for that in yourself. Because, it's an irony to me that most of us, even actors, that spend their whole life going from character to character and digging deep into these characters, most of us don't give ourselves the in-depth attention and exploration that an actor gives to every character that they play. And this is the character that we're playing for. This is the role of a lifetime.
Right. How sad is that? Yeah.
We got that investigation. I do all kinds of exercises when I'm starting an acting class with beginning actors. One of the things that I will do is an exercise where I have them spend time just gazing into someone else's eyes and looking very carefully at the sides of their face and stuff. And we will say, inevitably, when I ask them how they felt about it, they'll be like, I've never looked at anybody that long in my life. And I started to realize, this was 30 years ago, but I started to realize, gosh, I don't look at my husband that long. I don't look at my, I didn't have
You don't
kids.
look at yourself that long in the mirror. You're just looking at, putting the makeup on or something. You're not really looking into your own eyes and establishing that relationship with yourself. And boy, that's something that we can all benefit from, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, Sandra, I'm going to keep you here all day. You don't mind, do you? I'm just having way too much fun. But we
Didn't
were,
scratch the surface. Be here
I,
for it.
oh, it's just so awesome. But you very generously offered an amazing free gift to the audience. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
It's the creative imagination meditation. It's my partner Rex that I mentioned earlier. He's a brilliant musician, and so he wrote original music for the meditation. And so it backs the meditation, and then it's a guided meditation on creative imagination and really tapping into that from me. And so you get it three ways. You get it with the music and the guided meditation and a video, and you get it with the music and the guided meditation just in an audio, and then you get just the music by itself so that you can continue your own meditation thereafter and use that as
I love that. Wow. I can't wait to download my copy. That's fabulous. Thank you. That's really generous. Well, one of the things that we always do here at the Abundance Journey, we love to turn the tables on our guests because we know when we give, like you said, when you engage with life is when you receive the most. So what can we do to support you?
Well, I would say first and foremost, just read the book and then come and talk to me about it. It's easy to jump on my website at sandracavanaugh.com and you can jump on my calendar and have a real conversation with me. I'll meet up with you on Zoom and talk about it. But I would love for everyone to read and share the book because I am truly on a mission to create a world where everyone's unique creative genius is shared and respected. So
I love that. And I can attest to this because I read the book and I got in touch with her because I read the book and I was like, oh my gosh. And then she actually was willing to be on the show. Woohoo!
Really, I'm thrilled. Are you kidding?
Sandra, you are such a blessing. And you've given me a massive problem because now I have to pick just one of all the brilliant things you said to do the Activate Abundance segment around. And I've got 2 pages of notes here that I have to go through to figure that out. So thanks a lot. I'm just going to have you back again and again and again. That's all there is to it. Oh, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Everybody stick around because we're going to activate abundance in just a second. Hi, it's Elaine Starling, the Abundance Ambassador, and I know since you're listening to this show or watching this show, The Abundance Journey, you really want to experience more abundance in your life. Well, that's why I wrote the book, 5 Steps to Activate Your Abundance. It's available for sale right now from Amazon, from barnesandnoble.com, and many international sellers. And I want you to pick up a copy because I'm really opening the kimono here and sharing all of the information you need to experience abundance in every single aspect of your life. The book's divided into 3 parts. Part 1 is called Meeting the Divine. This is where I share my near-death experience and the conversation I got to have with our higher power during my stroke. In Part 2, Messages from the Divine, I share the best practices that I was given, the secret sauce in how life actually works. And so you understand really why you're here and how you can make the most of your life so you love every single moment. And then in the Part 3 is Partnering with the Divine. That's where I go into each of the 5 steps to activate your abundance and explain exactly why it works so well. So take a moment to pick up a copy. It's available as an ebook, a paperback book, an audiobook, and a video course. So however you like to absorb information, abundance is waiting for you. I love Sandra Cavanaugh. I love her. Oh my gosh. Honestly, I could spend days and days and days with this woman because she is so flipping brilliant. Step 1 is always gratitude. And yes, I adore her book. Spontaneous Brilliance is just a must read. Pick up a copy. You will be so glad that you did, but that she was generous enough to take the time to spend with us today and share all of these ideas, all these concepts with us. Just phenomenal. I really appreciate that. Step 2 is acknowledge something you heard that was a game changer. And for me, it was stop focusing on the why. When you focus on the why, that's when I'm coming from my human self and I'm trying to justify, and it's all ego-based. Instead, if I go back to the what do I really want from this? What is my intention, right? My intention, how I want to feel and what I want to create here. And it can't just be all for my benefit, it has to be for our benefit. That insight was, oh my gosh, that makes all the difference in the world. So I want to acknowledge, focus on the what, not the why. And that will get you really, really far. Step 3, appreciate the difference it can make in your life. Well, I'm going to stop chasing my tail. Because if I'm so focused on the why, that's a distraction. That's not effective. That's not efficient. That doesn't actually get me what I want. When I focus on what I want, that shifts everything because I can communicate it much more clearly. I can explain the value to me and to them. It creates a unique bond between me and the other person I'm speaking with. So that makes all the difference in the world. I really value the difference focusing on what can make in my life. Phenomenal. Step 4, activate it. There are 3 different ways we can activate it. We can either take out a calendar and schedule time to do this. This needs to be done on the fly. So then we could do a physical trigger as another option, like crossing my fingers or tugging on my earlobe as a reminder to focus on the what, not the why. Or I can declare it, especially like with an accountability buddy, or maybe my husband, if we get caught in these why conversations, I can say, you know what? I want you to call me on this. Get me to focus on the what. Get me to explain the what is important about this to me. And then we can really have an effective conversation. So for me, I'm going to go with a physical trigger. I'm going to remember from a physical trigger just because I want this to be my norm. And I value this so much because when I anchor in the what, it also helps me stay present. This is what is important to me right now. And one of my commitments this year is I want to be really firmly present. Step 5, celebrate your progress. This is massive progress. When you don't waste your time with why anymore, and instead you're focused on what, you can cut to the bottom line really quickly, create an alliance, and make progress fast. You have a lot more clarity. And that means the people you're connecting with and collaborating with get to have that same clarity. Awesome. There was so much that I got from this conversation. I'm going to be listening to this interview with Sandra Cavanaugh again and again and again. And I'm going to review my notes because I've got 2 pages of notes that I took while she was talking. And true confessions here, I always get ebooks when I get books because then I can highlight sections that are really important to me and I can email the highlighted sections to myself and put them in a Word document. Well, I collect quotes from different books. I swear to you, I must have like 12 or 15 quotes from Sandra from her book because spontaneous brilliance is that good. And you are that good. When you can own your own brilliance and have that same level of confidence so you can welcome what life is bringing in, appreciate the blessings that are present in the moment, and engage with it, collaborate with life, that opens up limitless possibilities for you. And that's what I want for you. I want you to enjoy and savor a life that is rich in abundance in all forms. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time for the Abundance Journey.
You've been listening to the Abundance Journey Show with Elaine Starling. Visit theabundancejourney.com/podcast gifts to access today's gift, as well as gifts from our other guests. Tune in every week to activate abundance in your life and business. If something resonated with you, please share it with your friends so they can benefit too. Keep activating abundance, and we'll see you in the next episode.